Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Alright, so I'm at Shinagawa Station, and this is probably one of the busiest stations in Tokyo, so you're going to see a lot of people getting off work behind me. Alright, so let's talk about good, better, best. That's a simple term, good, that is very hard to define, and when it comes to the good of a wristwatch, it's even more difficult. So we're not going to go in depth. I could probably make 5 videos on this. I'm not going to pull an Archie. We're going to go over it once. But the idea of this video comes from a back and forth I had with Andy Garton, which was in my cheap and nasty Rolex bracelet video. I got a little bit snippy with Andy, and Andy, if you're watching, I appreciate your comments, and comments like yours are the fuel for these ideas, and comment on. Yeah, I welcome them, and forgive my sensitivity. You never know if people are trolls and they're winding you up and they're leading you down this path to screw with you. And I wasn't quite sure about Andy. And in retrospect, I think he was just having a good conversation. And so, yeah, welcome Andy and comment on. But what we were talking about was better and comparing Rolexes, newer to older, and comparing Rolexes and comparing watches is part of the fun of this hobby, and defining which one is better. And you can define better and good in a couple different ways. You can do it situationally, is it which is better for this situation, which is good for this situation. If you're looking at having a child and a baby and changing them and taking care of them, well, a good watch is probably anything waterproof that doesn't have a leather bracelet. You're going to probably want something that can take a spill, can take moisture and water and liquids and urine and milk and all of those good things that babies make. So it could be related to age. You might shy away from giving your high schooler a Rolex. I know I would. I think if my high schooler, and I don't have one yet, but even if they had their heart set on a Rolex, I'd say it's a little too soon. I'd hook them up with some sort of mechanical watch, but a little too soon if you ask me. It's not a good watch for a high schooler. On a related note, I had a friend in high school, Jay, who had an Air King, and it must have been an old Air King because it was a plastic crystal and it was all scratched up. And I wasn't a watch person at the time, but I knew he had a Rolex, and I never really had a conversation about the Rolex with him, but I knew it was an expensive watch, and I just always figured his dad bought it for him. And a little too much watch for a high schooler. Not a good watch. Not even good for a university student. I got way too drunk to have a Rolex on my wrist when I was a university student. I would have lost it. It would have been gone. It would have been asking for it. So Seiko would be the best watch in that case. So, there's ways to look at it situationally. And Andy and I were talking about looking at 2 Rolexes and an old one and a new one, and the fact that the new one's probably going to be better. And I have to agree with Andy. It just has more contemporary technology. If you look at 2 watches, an old sub and a new sub, a 14060 and a 11460. And if you don't know anything about the watches, you're probably going to wager that the newer watch is going to be better. It's going to be more accurate. And that's where I'd put my money, on the newer watch, because it's got the newer technology. Now, that's not always the case, because your mileage may vary, and the older Rolex that you're looking at might actually tell the time more accurately, and in that sense be better. But, and this is why you opt for the new technology and the parachrome spring that resists magnetization, and the more accurate movement, generally speaking. All of that new technology just increases the chances that that particular watch is gonna run better. But again, your experience and practice may vary, and I'm sure there are 14060s that are out there that are running more accurately than a 11460. But again, if you had to guess, I'd guess that the new technology would be keeping the newer watch more accurate. So, and that really brings us to accuracy. And you know, I'm a bit rusty on my Aristotle, but the teleological view that there's a purpose for things, and of course I think that theologically speaking, the greatest purpose of a watch is to tell the time and to do it accurately. And in that sense, Rolex is very special. They make guarantees on how accurate their watches are. Serious question, do other brands, other high-end brands like Omega back their accuracy? I'd like to know. I really just don't know. I know Rolex does, and if you buy a Rolex and it's, well, they say that's +2, -2 these days. Now I don't know if it's +3, they'd tinker with it for you. Maybe not, or maybe. But I know that if you get a watch back from Rolex and it's, say, +7, you know, after a service, it's unlikely it's not going to be +7. But on the off chance it was, they'd fix that for you. They'd, I think for 2 years, the life of the warranty, they would make sure it's within COSC standards. And actually, they tweaked my GMT, even though it was within the standards. It just wasn't accurate enough for me, and they fixed it. So that's great. They made it more accurate. So, speaking in terms of purpose, I think what makes, for me, Rolex the best is, when it comes to mechanical watches, the accuracy. And again, just like those newer pieces, when it comes to Rolex, the chances are your Rolex is going to be more accurate than your run-of-the-mill Seiko or a Vostok. Now, are there Vostoks out there that are exceptions to the rules and are keeping better time than my sub? Yeah, I'm sure they exist, but you know, in terms of probability, I think I'd put my money on my sub. And sort of going off on a small tangent, even if you were to show me an accurate Vostok, I would very likely say that it's accurate at this point in time, meaning I would question whether it's going to be as accurate in a couple months. Now, I don't feel the same way with a Rolex. You know, a Rolex like this one right here is going to be +4, and it was +4 2 months ago. 6 months from now, it's going to be +4. It's +4, and that's what it runs. Now, interesting question: is this a better watch or a worse watch than, say, my GMT Master 2? Well, by my criteria, which is its ultimate purpose, I'd have to say the GMT Master 2, which is running at the worst +1 a day, is better. But at the same time, I look at this watch as running +4 at this point in time, and I know when it goes in for a service, it's gonna come back and very likely run more accurately. And on a side note, I'm gonna make sure it is. I'm gonna request that. And when it comes to dealing with the staff at the AD and the service center, I'm gonna say that really I'm expecting no more than +1 a day off. In fact, I think I might shoot for +1 every couple of days and see what they say. And if they can't quite do that, but they can get +1 a day, then I'll be happy. There's no reason to settle for +4, in my opinion. And I'm going to let them know off the bat that I expect a little bit more. I know they can do it. They did it with the GMT Master 2. So again, I'm defining better and best in terms of this one criteria, accuracy, and that's speaking. I'm bringing Aristotle back into it. I'm putting that on the watch. That's called intrinsic versus extrinsic versus intrinsic. Intrinsic is when an object has sort of a purpose. Irrespective of what humans dictate, like an acorn, okay? Its purpose is to grow into an oak tree, irrespective of what a human feels about it. It's innate purpose and sort of the reason for its existence. Whereas a watch, well, I mean, it's a man-made thing, so we sort of give our own meaning to it, and so that's intrinsic, an intrinsic teleological view, and mine is accuracy. But there are people walking around, I'm sure, who say accuracy is not really that big of a deal. I use my phone more. I wear this for the status because it looks great. It's a big piece of jewelry. It impresses men and impresses women. It makes people think I have more money than I may have, or it represents how much money I do have. And for them, the purpose of the Rolex is different than mine. But I don't know. Perhaps intrinsically, the case could be made that the purpose of a watch is to tell time. It seems sort of I'm splitting hairs here. Now, I'm sort of opening up a can of worms by saying that the good of a watch is to tell the time and tell it accurately, because somebody's invariably going to bring up quartz, the bane of the mechanical watch lover's existence. We call quartz soulless, and I think many of us, we sort of hate quartz because when it comes down to it, generally all quartzes do what this is supposed to do better, and that's frustrating, and it makes you question having a mechanical watch. If this was 50 years ago, Rolex would be where it's at, and it really would be the best. It would be the best thing out there. But since the quartz revolution, well, the way I define good, somebody could easily say that quartz are just better watches. Now, this is when I would probably say, well, it's not just all about the accuracy. There are other things as well, craftsmanship and the aesthetics, the history, the legacy. And once you bring all of that together into it, then this starts to make sense again. But when it comes down to it, you can't deny that this is a tool to tell the time, and quartz many times, more often than not, has a leg up on mechanical watches. When it comes to mechanical watches, I think Rolex is probably the best game in town. So anyway, the good of the wristwatch and defining the good and what makes for a good wristwatch. I think it's important when you're looking for perhaps that one watch. And accuracy, of course, would be up there, but then I would incorporate other things like the usability in different situations, how it makes me feel. Does it make me feel like I have something special? Or does it make me feel like I have something cheap, like, Casio? Casio just doesn't really turn me on to look at it. The aesthetics, all of those things. So anyway, kind of a strange video all over the place. The good, I mean, when you look at a watch, and what is the ultimate good? Is it accuracy, like I'm so fixated on, or is it a little bit of accuracy with a little bit of style? Are there any people watching the channel that are totally fixated on style only, that could care less about accuracy? I feel like Archie is like that. He never talks about accuracy. It's just sort of off his radar. He seems, the purpose of his watches seems to be, I don't know, aesthetics and luxury and having some, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he's not an accuracy nut like I am. The good of a wristwatch, what is it for you? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.